Welcome to Aired Out, brought to you by Capitol Showplace Montpelier and Paramount Theater Barrie. At FGBtheaters.com, CW Print and Design in Barrie, at CWPrintDesign.com, Peak Entertainment, PeakDJ.com, Cruise Planners, your land and cruise experts. In Vermont, CruisePlanners.com, Donnybrook Fight Promotions of Williamstown, CBDCrave.com. Presented by CVTV, Public Access Channel 192 and 194, CVTV723.org, Fontaine Forestry and Millworks, Route 14 East Montpelier. Custom orders, rough, kiln dry, plain, tongue and groove, or shiplap. FontaineMillworks.com and Fly on the Wall Productions. Now, let's get aired out. JD Green, Aired Out. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I have a very special friend who's right next to me, but first, I want to just thank our presenting sponsor, Fontaine Forestry and Millworks on Route 14, just down from Bragg Farm, where they're very busy over there right now with custom orders and rough cut, planed. No matter what it is that you're thinking about, they'll do it for you. Yeah, tongue and groove. Did I mention planed, Brandi? I think I did. Did I say planed? Yes, I did. Shiplap. Do you know what shiplap is? Of course you don't.
I'm going to say yes to all of the above.
Yes to all of the above.
Yep.
But you know where Bragg Farm is.
Yes.
And Fontaine's is just down below.
Yes,
that.
I do know that.
Very
yes.
cool place. You should swing in there sometime.
Yes.
Check it out.
I probably should also shut my cell phone off. Does that
okay.
matter?
That's
right.
Welcome to Aired Out.
Oh, thank you.
I am so happy that you are here.
Finally.
This is so cool.
I'm kind of...
Where do we begin?
I don't know. This is a different vibe for me. I'm used to the radio scene.
Well, here's the thing. This is still radio. There's just a couple of cameras that are looking at us right now.
Well, the fun thing about radio, where you and I first met,
yes,
we were just talking maybe 7-8 years ago, was that, it didn't matter what you looked or if your posture was good or if your shirt was buttoned correctly
or had stains
or
all
not,
over the front of
or
it.
if your hair had been combed that morning.
Yes, right.
Often. So I did comb my hair.
That's why I wear a hat. Seriously.
It works.
Motorcycle hair helmet.
There you go.
Helmet hair, whatever you... Anyway, welcome to Aired Out. This is Brandi Jagemann, who is next to me, who is a very close friend of mine, and we have been... I think I've known you longer than what you say, but...
it's fuzzy math.
It is fuzzy.
Math is fuzzy, but at least 8 years.
You are the proud mom of two lovely children who are turning into borderline young adults.
Yeah. Yeah, Jaden just turned 16.
Oh, God. I've known your kids for so long. Where do we start?
I don't know. You dive in.
You were, when Lily was born, you were our daycare lady, our babysitter, our home.
My favorite job ever of all the jobs.
God,
yeah.
I mean, you were just amazing.
She was 9 weeks?
She was, I don't even
9
know.
weeks, I think 9
I
weeks
don't
old.
know how old she was, but she was just an infant. And
she was a tiny little nugget.
And you were with her every day, and you took such great care of her.
And I let her sleep on me because I could, and
God,
ruined it for you and Sherilyn when you got
all
home because she wanted to be held while she slept.
Yeah, and we're still dealing with that now at age 4.
You're welcome. It all starts in the beginning.
But we have so many stories to share. First of all, your children are amazing. And I just want to say, just seeing them recently is just remarkable to watch them grow.
Yeah, it's crazy how it happens so quickly.
Yeah.
I like them. I'll keep them.
You do so much. You work part-time at the Morse Farm.
I do work part-time at the Morse Farm.
So you will see Brandi.
Which is a fun place to hang out. Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
You do the creamies and all that?
I do. And after almost 2 years, my creamies finally are consistent. You wouldn't know until you tried to make the right size, the right shape.
So you've been in there running the show at Morse Farm when
running the show.
When a bus pulls up though, and
I'm supporting the team.
You're supporting the team.
Yes, I'm team support.
Okay, I understand.
So a lot of times, even though
I'm
a little bit older than some of the employees, they know a lot more than me. Okay. I try to only do 1 or 2 days a weekend, but you know me, somebody calls, I'll step in and cover.
Right.
That's what I do.
That's what
I say
you
yes.
Do. Too much.
I say yes to everything.
So you've been in a situation where you've had to make 20, 30 creamies at the same time?
We've had situations where we've had register lines in the creamy line out to the street.
When it's really slow, dead of winter, have you ever gone underneath the creamy dispenser and gone?
Not I. No, not I. Be fun for maybe somebody else. But
Elliot? Has Elliot ever done that?
no. Elliot actually is the person in charge of the creamy machine.
Yeah.
He does everything.
Yeah.
He empties it out. He cleans it. He fills it up.
Wow.
He's quite entertaining. We actually had a tour bus show up this past Saturday, and no other Morses were to be found, and he had come in to clean the creamy machine, and we're like, hey, there's a bus.
Yeah.
So, he went on the bus, gave him the whole rundown.
Did he really?
Took him into the sugar shack. They were very happy and entertained.
And they love his accent.
Oh, they love it. Oh, yeah.
Wow. So
he's your standard Vermonter.
If you see Brandi at the Moores Farm this summer, if you're going there for a creamy, tell her that you saw her on my podcast.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about a little bit of your life, which I'm telling you, this is
a little bit.
This is so interesting. There are segments of your life.
There's like full life. There's like 3 or 4 full life stories.
So, the beginning is when you got pregnant.
Right.
That's when.
With Jaden.
What happened?
So I was about 13 weeks pregnant when my doctors were just kind of thought something wasn't quite right. I was tired, exhausted, couldn't get up a flight of stairs, and thought, how the heck did people ever have babies? Because it's the hardest thing at 13 weeks to be pregnant, and just try to function. So they did some routine blood work, and that blood work showed that there was something funky with my red and white blood cells. The numbers were way off. So they suggested that I have a bone marrow biopsy, to which I said, you're crazy. I'm just pregnant. So I went in and had a bone marrow biopsy with Dr. Ospina and the great folks that are still actually part of the cancer center at Central Vermont Medical Center, the National Life Cancer Treatment Center. They do radiation now, but Mountain View Medical, I'll give a shout out to them. They've been treating patients with chemotherapy for 20 plus years, I think. But they were there way back in the beginning, so 16, 17 years ago. Dr. Ospina did my biopsy, said, we'll give you a call in a couple of weeks when the results come back. At the time, I was married to a Norwich professor, and I was actually, what was I doing? I think I was taking an exam because I decided that I wasn't going to work, that I would do some schooling because it was free. And I was taking an exam, and the doctor had called my now ex-husband and said, Brandi needs to pick a hospital to go to. So anyway, he's texting me. I'm taking an exam, history class I was taking for fun. And I got out and called him, and he said, the doctor called and said, you should pack a bag for 30 days, and you can pick Fletcher Allen or Dartmouth Hitchcock because you have leukemia. So that was shocking, obviously. It seems like 57 years ago at this point in the scope of things. So yeah, so we chose Fletcher Allen. I got there. It was all kind of confusing, as anybody who's gone through a cancer diagnosis knows. You just go through the whole rush of chaotic thoughts and worry and wondering what's happening.
How far along were you?
17 or 18 weeks.
Pregnant?
Jaden. Yep.
When you found out you had leukemia?
Yep. And one of the first people that came into the hospital room, just interesting things. I was 23, I believe, and I was on the grown-up or just the oncology floor, the inpatient oncology floor, which is it was 16, 17 years ago, depressing place. They have the Children's Hospital, which is a wonderful, beautiful place with murals and light and bright, and but where I wasn't that. It was mostly aging folks who were dying or not doing well. So it was kind of a awkward environment to be in anyway. But somebody, and I don't know who, came in and said that if I had been diagnosed 5 years previously, that they would have suggested that I terminate my pregnancy. To which I replied, my pregnancy is already named Jaden, and that would not happen. So
wow.
Yeah, but because of research, and
You're
there
right.
again, that's how you and I kind of connected, was
Yes.
through work with the American Cancer Society. Because research had been done, they had a tried and true treatment for my type of leukemia, which was ALL, acute lymphocytic leukemia.
So whenever we met, and we don't know exactly when it was. It doesn't matter. But whenever we met, at the time I was working the morning show at Froggy.
Right.
And you had come up to be the spokesperson and the promoter for the local Relay for Life.
Right. I gingerly knocked on the door and said, "Could I please come and talk on the radio about the Relay for Life?"
And I was like, "Who is this short-haired?"
And then,
freak
yeah,
in the
that was in the
parking
beginning.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But as soon as you said that you wanted to promote anything that was going on with cancer, I had you in immediately.
Yeah, you did. You were on it.
And we've really promoted well that Relay for Life.
Oh, absolutely.
Year after year. I mean,
And then as Jaden got, because the team was Jaden's Joggers for my daughter, and then as she got older, she came in. She was coming in a few years in a row.
Yes, and learned. Yeah, she learned how to speak.
She was all into the radio thing.
Yeah, she did get into that.
Yeah.
So we fostered this relationship based on the Relay for Life and cancer and everything. But then, so what happened at that point?
So I had about 30. I had 30 days, I think. I was actually in the hospital for 37, but there was a 30-day chemotherapy protocol, which is, they call it induction. A lot of times you're in the hospital just in case something. There was 90% of my white blood cells were cancer cells, so it had been going on for a while, and it just was masked by what I thought was typical pregnancy symptoms. I didn't have any bruises. I didn't have any of the other things that show up. I just was exhausted and couldn't breathe and had no stamina. Just those small things. But so I had my induction. And then the module was an ABC module filled with toxic chemicals that I won't even begin to try to remember. I know one of them was red. Oh, one was vincristine, and we would joke that it was my boyfriend Vin when they would bring it in. That might have been the red one. So I had all kinds of chemotherapy while I was in the hospital, and then was discharged. And I ended up having an AB module. I think I did 2 AB modules. I did 2 AB modules, 2 A and B modules. And they decided to save the C modules for after Jaden was born, because the C module was all methotrexate, which is actually the main ingredient in the morning after pill. And there wasn't any science that it would or would not affect the fetus. So they decided to not try to figure that out. But they were pretty certain that all the chemicals in the AB modules wouldn't pass the blood-brain barrier. So the biggest concern, or the biggest threat to Jaden was if I had needed antibiotics, which I did a few times. But on the flip side, I think she was born with a super immune system. I don't know if that makes sense to the medical world, but she was hardly sick until the teen years. But that could just be, being a teenager.
So then what? Then what happened?
So then we scheduled.
This is just the beginning.
Yeah, this is just the beginning. I talk about it like it's like no big deal.
Yeah,
but it was so long ago. Yeah. So I'm pregnant and I'm getting chemotherapy, and my ex-husband was a trooper and was very supportive and very helpful. My family was helpful. I was thinking about it before I came in here. Every single part of each of my stories, the take-home message really is support and community, because I was always a person who had support. I was always a person that had friends. I was always a person that had family. I was, after this experience, I was always the person that had community, because I made so many of those connections through Relay for Life and through all of the other things that I did to try to give back. I know we're going all over the place, but I ended up volunteering at Mountain View Medical for almost 5 years while I was waiting for a heart, which we'll get to that later, I guess. So anyway, they gave me a 2-week break before a scheduled C-section. Actually, I take that back. It was not a scheduled C-section. That was Jackson. We'll get there. So they gave me a 2-week break from the chemotherapy and tried to induce labor. and I was on Pitocin for like 24 hours. Bad, what do you call it? The cramps? What do you call those things? Contractions.
Contractions?
Yeah. Contractions.
Hashtag the cramps. It's the cramps.
Contractions. Well, what's funny, and it's not funny, is that I never went into natural labor for either kids. So, I hardly remember. So I only had contractions during that time with Jaden because they tried to induce them with no change. Funny thing about that story is I had my mom go to Nectar's and get me French fries when they told me I couldn't eat because I was starving. And I think those may have been the best French fries I had in my entire life. So good. Anyway, no change, so they scheduled a C-section for the next day. So what happened was overnight, every time they would, I would get a contraction, Jaden's heartbeat would go down.
Right.
So we were doing the C-section anyway, and when they got in there, they realized that the cord was wrapped around her neck twice.
Wow.
Yep. So.
Okay.
Yep. And she came out with a perfectly shaped head, and yes,
is fine.
And it's great. And then 2 weeks later, I went back into chemotherapy for the 2 C modules, each of the modules a month long. So at 9 days old, she was in the chemo chair with me, and boy, did the nurses love her.
I cannot believe this.
Well, now that you have Lily, you understand the totality of having
9
a baby.
days after birth, you went back to chemotherapy.
Yep.
With a 9-day-old child.
Yeah.
Then what?
Then I finished the 2 C modules, and
wait till you hear this.
I had
I'm telling you.
18 months. I think 18 months of maintenance chemo. Fun fact: prednisone is not to be given in high doses, but when you're doing a maintenance chemo, and sometimes for other chemotherapies, they'll give you high doses of prednisone. Anybody out there that's been on prednisone? I took 120 milligrams for 5 days, and then nothing. So that's fun.
Wow.
Yeah. And at like day 2, I had the strength and power of Superman. One day my ex-husband went out to walk the dog, and he came back in, and I had torn all the carpet off the stairs because I decided that they needed to be replaced. And yeah.
Wow.
Another time went to walk the dog. Abby was her name. And he came back in. I was on the kitchen floor with all types of chocolate wrappers all around me. I was just like digging out chocolate chips, like could not get enough chocolate. Prednisone is tough.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you get up here and then fall flat. But yeah.
So then what?
So then I continued going to school. The plan was that I was a teacher. I got my degree at Trinity College, where I met my best friend in the world, who you've met, I think, Megan Johnson Dunstan. Shout out to Megan. And had been teaching before getting married and getting pregnant and getting leukemia. So the plan was for me to wait until Jaden was 5 before I went back to work. And then having cancer, I thought maybe, I'd go into nursing and do that sort of a thing. So started nursing school full time while Jaden was just a little nugget, and got involved in relay. See, it's all coming back to me. No, I got involved in, what was it? The driving program. The American Cancer Society has a program where they have volunteers who drive patients to treatment, Road to Recovery. You'll understand when I tell the whole story why I'm forgetting bits and pieces of this tiny little story. Mm-hmm. So I started volunteering for Road to Recovery, and that got me into doing some advocacy work for the American Cancer Society, which was fabulous. Gave my life meaning and purpose, and I got to go to D.C., and do a lot of advocacy stuff. We had kind of like the hope stuff, I'm saying like a lot. I'm noticing that.
That's all right.
Awareness, mindfulness. Kind of like a not a small scale, a large scale relay where we did a lap of hope and the candles, and I got to talk to all the Vermont representatives, made a bunch of friends, Ann Finnegan being one of them, who I know
Annie.
you know. Yeah, again,
Love Annie Finnegan.
all these connections were made through the American Cancer Society. And then I found out that there was a job available as the grassroots volunteer coordinator. And I jumped right on it and was hired. And so I quit school and jumped on the advocacy train. Loved my coworkers, loved everything that I was doing. At ACS, I would travel across the state, meeting cancer survivors, hearing their stories, asking them to share them, sharing with them how impactful it was for me to have gone through all of this, which again is just a small thing at this point, but to have gone through all of it and to be able to do something with it, to give back, to have talked to my representatives to make sure that they continued to fund cancer research, or to go to the State House and lobby for a higher tobacco tax, because if there's anything you can do to avoid cancer, you should do it. All those things. It was super fun. And I met people doing that as well. And that's where I got involved in Relay. And in the start was as a staff person. I went to all of the different individual relays in Vermont and was their kind of advocacy spokesperson. I think that was in like 2005. ACS was working on a sister organization, ACS Cancer Action Network, which was more advocacy and lobbying. They're two different nonprofit codes, but I won't go into that.
At this point, you're about how old at this point?
Let's see. I think Jaden was 2.5, 3. Oh yeah, in between there, in between all that, there was Jackson too.
Jackson is your son.
Yeah, there was Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jackson was born in 2006.
Okay.
I do know my son's birthday.
So you were in remission at this point.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm in remission. I'm working for ACS.
Yes.
Had Jackson.
Things are going
well. Actually, I was pregnant with Jackson the summer before. I got the ACS job in December of 05. 06? One of them. And I was pregnant with Jackson doing anatomy and physiology summer course at Norwich. That was fun. So Jackson was born, working for ACS. Things are going great. We celebrated his first birthday on... Again, that would have been July 5th, 2007 was his first birthday. I can do math. Math is fuzzy for me. And in October of the same year, in between there, I got divorced. Those little things that don't have to be, chronicled. But everything was going great. I was divorce, process of the divorce being finalized, and I was trying to get all of my medical appointments taken care of before the following year because I was under my ex-husband's insurance. So I was making all of these appointments to make sure that I got them done ahead of time because I didn't know what my insurance coverage was going to be or how much it was going to be out of pocket, all that stuff. So I scheduled annual things. So I scheduled dental cleanings, I scheduled this, I scheduled that, and I scheduled a bone marrow biopsy because I had to do biopsies every year. So I scheduled my bone marrow biopsy
at this point
in October.
At this point in your life, if something or someone came down from the sky and told you what was about to happen after everything you've already gone through,
right,
which
that you think is ginormous,
what would, I mean, you're going to say what's happened.
I don't know.
Your reaction, I wonder what it would have been. You've got a 1-year-old boy.
Yep.
You're in remission. You're working for the American Cancer Society.
Living the dream. I'm divorced.
You're going through
living the dream.
You're going through a divorce, but
no,
you're also
separated. Living the dream. Divorce is fine.
Okay.
Come to be finalized.
You're going through mountains of stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
I felt like I had already climbed the mountain.
You had already climbed a mountain. You had a massive peak in front of you.
Yep.
What happened?
Well, I went and had my annual bone marrow biopsy and found out that 70-something% of the cells were leukemia cells. Single parent, living in an apartment, working full time. Yep.
Obviously, your reaction was?
Angry. I think it was the first time that I was really angry.
You've got a 1-year-old baby at home.
Angry.
In an apartment.
Yep. Single mom.
And you've already celebrated somewhat the fact that you were in remission.
Yep.
You've got a second child now.
4 years in remission. Yep.
You're going through a separation.
Yep.
And you just found out that 70% of your cells were leukemia.
Yep.
So the cancer was back huge.
Yep.
What then?
I found out that
What a freaking roller coaster.
Fletcher Allen couldn't do a bone marrow So the obvious next step was a bone marrow transplant because I hadn't had one. Obvious. I say obvious, but in the cancer world, in the oncology world. So we tested family members. My brother was not a match. Nobody in my family was a match. One of the first things we did was just put out the request to find a match, a marrow match, because I needed a marrow match. And the hope was that with some chemotherapy, that we could knock the cells down enough and keep them down long enough for me to have a bone marrow transplant. So started chemotherapy, obviously couldn't work.
And then what happened with your heart?
I will also say then I rallied my friends in the community, and I had a lot of support. I had donations of cleaning products. I had people making sure that the kids have everything they need. Again, the thread that ties it all together is my family, my friends, and the community, in different communities, because that community was different than the community I'm in now, but connected to kind of all of them. So I started doing chemotherapy. I'm trying to think. I can't remember when it was that they told me that they had found a match, but obviously successful with knocking down the cancer long enough. Found out that there was a match. They tentatively scheduled a day or a week that I would need to be available. I think I had about 3 or 4 weeks off in between there. That's when I went to the grand opening of Southside Bar in South Barry and met the one and only Dave Watson.
Love Dave.
Dave Watson, yep. So really spilling the tea. A few weeks later, Dave Watson had a timeshare in Orange Lake in Kissimmee and said, come to the timeshare. I'll fly you to the timeshare for a few days.
Okay.
Because the week after I was going to have my bone marrow transplant. So flew to Florida, had a great time, came back thinking that my transplant was going to happen right away, and then it was delayed. A lot of things I didn't know about until a couple years afterwards. And when the time came, I showed up. It was non-eventful in the beginning. The marrow was in 3 syringes, and you could they were kind of reddish, and you could kind of see like stuff, not necessarily cells, but it was interesting. I didn't really know what to expect, but this is your marrow. And any cancer treatments that you have, they'll give you a port of some kind, and I had an internal port. I've actually had tons of them. You can probably see lots of ports, jugular here, there, everywhere. So the nurse started pushing the plunger. I knew that they had come from somewhere. They were flown in because there were preservatives in them, and they were frozen. Which is to say that anybody can donate marrow. It doesn't matter where you live. So you can get on the registry to be a marrow donor just by doing a cheek swab. So that's good to know. My donor actually ended up being from Germany. It's pretty interesting.
Wow.
Yep. So anyway, she started pushing the plunger, and immediately I felt like I was burning from the inside out, like the worst feeling to that point that I had. burning, just absolutely burning, screaming, burning, make it stop. So they knocked me out with something and continued to give me the marrow. Afterwards, we learned that there was a reaction that I had to the preservative, which is uncommon. So they gave me Benadryl and gave me medication to knock me out. I'm not sure what it was. So I was kind of out, I think, for most of the day, if I remember correctly. Kind of came to the following day and was having severe back pain. Again, worst pain that I thought I'd had in my entire life. And I remember being on the floor on my hands and knees screaming that it hurt. Again, came in, knocked me out. I ended up being in I think a 7-day medically induced coma because the back pain was kidneys, so I went into complete organ failure. Yep, so was at Dartmouth Hitchcock in a medically induced coma for about 7 days.
Then what?
So when I was in nursing school at Norwich, again, all these connections, I met Danielle Davis, who actually was an LNA in the pods, in the oncology pods at Dartmouth Hitchcock. And I came to, they gave me a clipboard with a piece of paper and a pen to write something down. And the first thing I wrote down was, "You're wearing my sweatshirt." Because you were, Danielle.
Okay.
So that's just kind of funny. That's kind of funny. You're going to laugh at that.
Why was she wearing your sweatshirt?
We're talking about all this stuff and, medically induced coma.
Yeah.
Just had a bone marrow transplant.
Uh-huh.
And I noticed that Danielle was wearing my sweatshirt because she borrowed it. She still has it. I told her to keep it. I did. Yeah. You might as well keep it.
So then what?
Well, I guess, fast forward a little bit. Again, thought that I did well. Didn't have any graft versus host, which is what you worry about with a bone marrow transplant. From what I can remember, I don't think there were many hiccups in terms of the marrow transplant. Kind of went on my way, and then it was my excuse me, bone marrow transplant was May 2nd, 2008. I've got an event. My phone's telling me. And right into like the barbecue season. So, I felt okay, but I just had a bone marrow transplant. I'm on anti-rejection drugs. You think you're going to have a compromised immune system. You're not going to feel great. Got to worry about swelling. Got to worry about all this stuff. So I kept blowing up like a balloon and not being able to breathe. And looking back on it, it makes perfect sense because I would be eating chips and hot dogs and burgers and anything else that has salt in it. Ended up, over the course of the summer into the fall, being intubated about 7 times. Tube down the throat, panicking, I can't breathe. They chalked it up to being chronic pneumonia because of the compromised immune system. And then the 7th time, I want to say, I ended up at Dartmouth in the ER because Dave and I would recognize it was starting again and not knowing what it was. Be like, it's starting, I can't breathe. And we would just go to the emergency room instead of hanging around, calling, waiting. And it was an intern or a fellow, I can't remember what the hierarchy is, who in the ER said, "Oh, she's 30, so okay." And then looked at my history and saw that I had a bone marrow transplant and my history of cancer with 2 cancer treatments and said, "This is heart failure."
What?
Yep. So he's like, "This is heart failure. This isn't pneumonia." And that's what it was. It was heart failure. So in the fall, end of summer.
If I were you, I would have been like...
These were the angry years. I'm telling you, the angry years. Like, nobody could figure out what was happening. All I wanted to do was stay home with my babies and just be alive because now I had a bone marrow transplant. And
of course. I would be like,
what
are you talking about? Heart failure.
Well, I was actually excited that somebody knew what the answer was.
So
until I found out, what it looked like. So they sent me home with a low salt diet and the idea that I probably would have to take some sort of IV medication. So I had somewhere in there was lots of different visits and follow-ups and all that, but I had a catheter put in. I always forget about the stroke. So I had a catheter put in so that they could give me an IV medication that was supposed to kind of remedy the heart failure. I was home 3 days, and it kept swelling, and it was sore and hurting. And I remember standing at the stove making pasta, saying, "It really hurts. I'm going to call them." So I called down to Dartmouth and said, "Where the catheter is puffy and red, and it's really sore to the touch, and I think something's wrong." And they said, "Oh, no, it'll be sore for a couple of days after you put it in." I said, "No, I don't think that's it, because it's not what I'm feeling." And I don't know how many minutes later I was trying to talk that something was wrong, and all the kids and Dave heard was garble because I was having a stroke. I stayed conscious through the whole thing. Those Barrytown EMTs, another shout out to them. They're great.
God. All of them are.
All of them are. All EMTs are. Barrytown, Montpelier.
Yes.
Even the ones in Boston. They're all great. Every time. They just...
Understatement.
Understatement. Yep, understatement. So anyway, they came, took me back at Central Vermont Medical Center in the ER with all my friends, because, I'd been there 7-8 times in the course of that entire year with the heart failure. Yep. So I came to, never lost consciousness. Don't really have any known side effects other than it ruined my handwriting.
Okay.
Jaden likes to brag that I used to put the names on the ornaments at the Christmas loft in Shelburne. I can't anymore because you can barely read my handwriting. But maybe some memory issues, but those could be from other things too. So no real side effects. But it was actually something. It wasn't a stroke. Something was wrong with my heart or a clot. It was a little piece of tissue that had broken off when they had inserted the catheter.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was fun.
So
then they hooked me up with IV tape recorder that basically runs the IV for me so I can go home, because I'm freaking out that I have to be in the hospital when I still have 2 young kids.
Oh, my God.
And a defibrillator belt. So when they gave me the defibrillator belts, I was crying. These are the words I said. "This is the worst day of my life. It's the worst day of my life. I don't want to live like this. This is awful. Woe is me. Life isn't fair. I hate this thing. I hate this." Super angry.
You have toddlers.
Super angry. Yeah. Yeah. Why can't I catch a break? Then I got the swine flu.
This is where things really get interesting.
Yeah. I was on a 5-page waiting list with everybody else.
You're not going to believe. You're not going to believe this.
Yeah.
Go
the
ahead.
waiting list for that vaccine, though, really, again, these are the angry years for me.
Oh, it gets...
I was on the waiting list for the swine flu. When
it
all those
gets-
Wall Street execs got theirs,
Yes.
me and 200 people in Central Vermont were on a waiting list to get the vaccine so we wouldn't get the swine flu.
So you got the swine
So I got the
flu.
swine flu around Thanksgiving, which really did a number on the already existing heart failure that there was a little bit of hope that IV medication was going to remedy. And just was not doing well. Woke up Christmas morning, told Dave, I think I'm dying. So, of course, let's let the kids unwrap their presents first. It's always about those kids. Wow. Doing what you can for the kids. Let them unwrap the presents. I'm calling their dad, and we need to go because I'm dying. I just knew I was dying. I couldn't breathe, and I knew I was dying. So, ex-husband came, loaded the kids. We headed to Dartmouth. I remember them talking about needing to get me to Boston, talking about me needing a heart transplant, talking about how dire it was. I was kind of in and out, obviously having lots of anxiety. So I ended up in Boston, and I think maybe the first week of January. They immediately had me laying flat with a balloon pump because my heart failure was definitely stage 4. It had been stage 4, but it was really not, my heart wasn't functioning at all. So put in a balloon pump. And meanwhile, I have the Brandi cough. So the Brandi cough is a cough that I get, I think it's allergies, in the fall, sometimes in the spring, but definitely in the fall.
So that's just
So I have a Brandi cough. So I remember them saying that they were thinking about putting in an LVAD, and they didn't think I had time for a heart transplant. And so when I had my bone marrow transplant, it changed my blood type. Really fascinating. So I'm O positive, which can give but can only get from O positive. So the likelihood that I was going to get a heart was nil. And by the way, New England only has one donor bank for organs, which means Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. One organ comes up. Everybody,
for all those states?
For all of those states. One organ for all of those states, for everybody who's waiting. One organ. So I just said at one point, I said, I just, whatever that VAD thing is, put it in me, because they were afraid if I had an infection that it would kill me. And I just said, I'm dying, so just put it in. Just do it. Give me the paperwork. Let me sign it. Put in the VAD. I had no idea what it was. So I wake up and I'm plugged into the wall with an electrical cord coming out of my abdomen. 20-foot cord plugged into a wall unit. Obviously, had just had open heart surgery. A little painful. The first one. Remember the first one.
Yeah.
And they said, but the funny thing is, as soon as I woke up, I could breathe.
Interesting.
As soon as I woke up, I could breathe because I couldn't.
So this was essentially a motorized...
It is a tiny jet engine that they attached to my left ventricle. It's called a left ventricle. Why can't I say ventricular? Ventricular.
You just said
left ventricular assist device. I've said it so many times in my life. LVAD for short.
Okay, so
so jet engine.
It's a jet
attached.
engine that's powered by electricity.
That's powered by an external. There's a cord that comes out. It's powered by either the wall unit or batteries. Mm-hmm. And I was set at 9,600 RPMs.
I
could breathe.
I remember so well, and it wasn't that long ago. It was just before you had a heart transplant. Putting my ear to your chest.
Oh, yeah. And hearing
the
hum.
Hearing that motor in there. Mm-hmm. It was like a high RPM motor. And you said that it was made by, was it Saab?
Oh, I don't know.
The Saab company?
It may have been.
In Germany? I'm pretty sure that's what you told me.
No.
But anyway.
Could be.
You had to carry a battery, an external battery.
Two batteries. I had to carry a controller.
On a bag, which looked like a purse.
Yep.
On your shoulder.
Yep.
With a wire coming out of it, which went into you.
And had two batteries, because
you
had to always have power.
Always had to have power. And these two batteries ran the valve of your heart 24 hours a day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they told me that I would have to stay plugged into the wall unless I had medical appointments. And I said, I have kids. Again, I've got kids. I can't stay plugged into the wall. But I quickly learned, as a Brandi Jagemann does, how to skirt around all of those things that people say you have to do. Because, again, and I was always safe, be a good spokesperson for the LVAD because it was incredible. If anything goes wrong, it tells you to go to batteries. Go to batteries. So I basically lived on batteries. I went to Jazzercise on batteries. We give a shout out to Diane Hood.
Diane Hood's amazing.
Gosh.
She's supposed to be coming on my show.
Good, yeah.
So
if you are able to get to Jazzercise in Barrie, that was a life changer for me. That was wonderful. She's fabulous. She really is. And I just wish, and I know people say this, and she'll be like, "That's an excuse," but I just can't get to Barrie right now. Maybe when my kids graduate high school, I'll get back into it. But yeah, got a fanny pack. Oh, lots of stories about people looking at my fanny pack. We went to Disney World.
Your fanny pack?
No, my fanny pack.
Okay.
Went to Disney World. Somebody asked me if it was a personal radio system. Yeah. We'd go to the timeshare, and I'd be sitting by the pool with a bathing suit and a fanny pack, with the batteries hanging out. People just wondering what it is.
So
I always would say, "Do you want to know what it is?"
Yeah.
Because, instead of staring at me, why don't you say, "Hey,
what is that?
That's interesting. Tell me more about that."
So how many years were you carrying a battery.
6.5.
6.5 years.
I actually, yes, 6.5. So I had the original one, so the first open heart surgery, original one for 4.5 years.
Yeah. And that failed.
It did. There was a problem with the controller, and I really thought that I wanted the newer controller that was just a tiny bit smaller.
So you went back in and had open heart surgery
So I had my
again.
second open heart surgery,
With a
which
new
was
motor.
actually the worst because I knew I was going to have another one. Because I knew if I was going to get it hard, I'd have to have another open heart surgery.
Of course.
So the second of everything was angry.
Yeah.
The second LVAD, I was very angry.
So the new LVAD
goes in. They changed the controller 3 times in the operating room because it keeps having an alarm. And there was
while you're under.
While I'm under. So I find this out afterwards. They're rolling me out of the operating room with the second LVAD, and it alarms again.
Brandi, you're dodging.
Yeah.
You've dodged death
I know.
so many times.
I know. It's crazy.
Most of us, not
Once
even
would
most
have
of
been
us.
enough,
Once
but-
would have been plenty.
Now I just feel like it's my job to
So you get
just,
the second LVAD. You're
yeah.
carrying around these batteries.
second LVAD.
You're not allowed to go in a boat for 6 years because the boat could tip over.
But I did.
You're not allowed to go swimming.
But I did.
Okay.
I'd put the bag on the side of the pool
Yeah.
and go up to my neck.
Did
and
you
just,
really?
Oh yeah, and just pretend that
Oh
I
my
was
God.
actually swimming.
Did you go 6 years without taking a shower?
Oh gosh, no. Oh no,
You
no,
know,
no,
I'm joking.
no.
So how do you do that?
Saran wrap, good tape.
What a
Just
pain in the ass.
wash away from it. Yeah. Well, and all the cancer treatments too, you'd have to cover. Oh yeah, I took some. That was one of. Again, I'm jumping forward, but that was one of the most glorious moments post-transplant was getting in the shower and taking a shower without saran wrap or worrying about where the cord was or the bag was. They make a shower bag, so there is actually a shower bag.
All
for
of
the
these
LVAD.
years go by. You and I are friends.
Yeah. I'm doing things. I'm
You're
doing all kinds of things.
You're doing everything. Nothing's stopping you. Lily is born. You're taking care of Lily. Lily's growing up. Blah, blah, blah.
Lily's getting spoiled.
And can we fast forward to that night?
To that fateful night.
I don't know what the date was. I'm sure you do.
Well, it was June 2nd because my transplant was on June 3rd.
Wow.
Which is also Jaden's birthday, which is really weird and creepy.
And that's 2 years ago.
3
years ago.
3 years ago. This June 3rd was 3 years.
I was at, where was I?
You were getting awarded for your amazing service
Where
in
was
radio
I?
for
Was it
47, 57, 60 years. 75 years in radio.
I was at the Capitol Plaza Hotel, and they were just about to call my name to get an award. And, well, they did. And when I went up to get it, when I turned around for them to photograph me, I could see that Sherilyn
That your wife was on her phone.
was on, I think it was my phone. And I'm like, why is she on the phone? You know? And when I was walking back to the table, she was still on the phone, and she was looking up at me, and she had this look on her face, and she was going like this, like something's wrong. And of course, I'm thinking something's wrong with Lily. And I get back to the table, and she whispers, Brandi the call just came in to Brandi. Yeah. She's got a new heart waiting for her. She's got to be in Boston in 4 hours. We got to go now.
And of course, on my end, I was doing what I always did and still do, which was taking one kid here, one kid there, and babysitting your child. So we're all in the car, and I'm taking Jackson to lacrosse practice, which was in Washington at the time because there was only BYSA lacrosse. Now there's Montpelier lacrosse. Anyway, so I have Jackson and Jaden and Lily in the car, and we're heading to Washington, and phone service is awful in Orange. Awful.
Horrible.
Wretched, awful. Dave is at a neighbor's house doing projects because he's always got projects. And I keep seeing, that somebody's trying to call me, but I can't figure out who it is because there's not even a signal to show the phone number. And I pull over. There's one spot by the reservoir, if you pull over, where you can get a text. And I see a text message from Deb. And so all the times I had my LVAD, 6.5 years, it was not Deb. Now I'm not going to remember their names. They're such wonderful people, all the folks. There's two sides. When you go to Tufts, shout out to Tufts. When you go to Tufts, there's the transplant side and the LVAD heart failure side. And Deb was on the transplant side. And I knew of her, but knew that she wasn't on the LVAD side. So I look down and I see that there's a text from Deb. I've been trying to call you, call me back. And I knew instantly, like 6:30 at night, headed to lacrosse. So turned around, told Jackson he wasn't going to lacrosse, and everybody in the car except Lily huge. Didn't know. She's just tiny. We're excited, petrified, scared,
I
excited.
cried. Just it hit me, and the
incredible moment for sure.
And we ended up calling our friends Peggy and Randy Henry,
and they got there quick.
Who live close by you? They live closer to you, and we were like, you're going to beat us. Please go get Lily. We'll explain later.
Just go get her.
Those are the best kinds of friends where you don't, when you don't have time to explain and you just say, just do it, and they just do it. Yeah. Those are the best kind.
Those are. And those are the ones that again are the reason that I'm still here is all of my friends. So
you jump in the car.
Well, not quite. Jaden's birthday was the next morning. And so I was like, well, let's do your birthday. Because meanwhile, in the back of my head, you're like, well, I might not make it. Which was, I didn't get on the transplant list for 2 years with my LVAD. A couple of reasons. The thought of taking out my heart and putting in somebody else's and hoping that it works was like terrifying to me. And the other reason was I didn't want to have any open heart surgeries. I just wanted to go and live my life and like be at peace until they convinced me that, as I said, New England has one donor bank, and so it's going to be a long wait. You might as well get on the list. So I said,
how long were you on the wait list for?
5 years.
Okay.
4.5, 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. About 1.5 years, 2 years into it, I finally got on the list. So I was like, all right, let's have your birthday pie. She wanted apple pie. We were gonna have apple pie for breakfast for her birthday. That was her choice. So I'm like shaking, thinking about like the entirety of the universe, and we're eating apple pie, and everybody's scared, everybody's excited.
We only have a few minutes left, but I know, and I'll say, I'll just say this. Obviously, I have to have you back on this show, but I know I know you have a long list of, and you have all kinds of stats and everything.
So I really wanted to talk about the transplant, but you can't get to the transplant until you go through the other,
of course,
huge life things that happen.
I'm begging you, please come back,
I will.
and we're going to do more about the transplant.
Well,
I want you to say,
Can I mention about the Donate Life Awareness Drive? Because I really would like to mention that.
Yes.
So, again, the other thing I wanted to say, too, really quickly is my donor's family has my information.
That's what I'm talking about.
I want to meet you. I want to thank you. I want you to hear your sister's heartbeat. I want you to see my family. I want to bring everything full circle and let you know that you have changed my life dramatically. So please, if you see this, you have my information. I am just waiting for you to reach out to me so that I can tell you thank you.
They know who you are?
They should have my information. They should have my information.
Do you know where they live?
The person at Donor Services said she thought they still lived in Vermont, which is unbelievable. So, yeah. I was really hoping to just get that out there because I really do. The ultimate gift out of everything that I've been through, I never thought I was going to get a heart because of the enormity of the region that we have and the amount of people that don't take the time to just check the box.
Yeah.
And when I was in the hospital, and I got to go home, every time I got to go home, there was always somebody that was living in the hospital waiting for a transplant. There was a mom with 2 babies. There was a younger man with a wife. And there are so many people that are waiting because of the enormity of the region, but also because folks don't take the time to register. And on that, I'll say, I am in partnership with my employer, the O.M. Fisher Home. I work at the
Yes.
Gary Residence. They
Yes.
are the umbrella organization
Yes.
of the Gary Residence in Westview Meadows.
Nonprofit.
We are hosting a Donate Life awareness and registry drive next Wednesday, June 19th, from 4 to 6 with refreshments and giveaways. So if you're interested in what the Gary Residence is, you can come and take a look at the Gary Residence, and anybody can come on by. I'm going to have a laptop, so you can just come, go to the website. It's so easy to register. You
And
don't
you're
have
the
to do.
activities director
I am
there.
the activities director. Yeah. So we're going to have
Kick-ass activities director.
we're going to have a Donate Life awareness kind of reception and party. So easy to register online. You can go to www.registerme.org. Very
That's it.
easy. Yep. And again, we're going to have some giveaways and a reception if folks want to stop by the Gary Residence, 149 Main Street, Montpelier. Next Wednesday from 4 to 6. Come by, say hi. I can answer any questions, share a little bit more about my transplant if anybody's interested.
Yeah, and they're celebrating their 100th anniversary.
They are, yes. 100 years of O.M. Fisher Home. Yep.
Wow.
Incredible.
Please donate your organs. Please check the box. Where do you check the box when you're getting
When you
your
go
license?
to your license, you can do it on your license.
What if you haven't done that on your license, but you
You
want
can
to be a
just register
donator?
online.
And how do you do that again?
www.registerme.org.
Okay.
Yep.
Brandi Jagemann with us this time around on Aired Out, and I am so grateful that you're alive, that we're still
too.
friends, and
That we're still friends. I mean,
we're
you
still
know, that's the
friends.
miracle. That's the miracle of it all.
I'm telling you.
Flossing,
And you know, this lady is just beginning to really live life in so many different ways.
Yeah.
You've missed a good chunk of
I know.
years, but you're definitely making up for it. And please come back. I'm
I
begging
would love
you.
to.
Okay?
We could talk for 3 more days.
Well, you've got so much stuff here about organ donor
Yeah. Yep.
information, and we all need to do a better job. And
One thing I'll add about this too, and I talked to a few people who are a little bit older or maybe have health issues who said, they're not going to want my organs. So the thing to say to that is let the professionals decide, because
Right.
Anybody who has signed up to donate, they are doing so many things. They're doing tissue,
Yes.
eyes. There are so many things
Right.
that folks need. And instead of just deciding that what you have isn't good enough, just check that box, go online and register, because the professionals might decide differently.
Of course.
And it could be the difference between somebody dying
Right.
because you were a match, but
course.
didn't think that your organ was something that they wanted. So, yeah.
Brandi's going to be back on the show for sure. I will be sure to let you know about it, too, when she comes back on. Thanks to Peak Entertainment, CBDcrave.com, one of our, couple of our sponsors right there. CW Print and Design in Barrie. Their open house is Friday with games and prizes and contests, and their ribbon cuttings at 2 o'clock this Friday afternoon. FGB Theaters at FGBtheaters.com, Capitol Showplace and the Paramount, Donnybrook Fight Promotions, Cruise Planners, Donna Sherman, YourVoyagePlanner.com, and presented by Fontaine Forestry and Millworks on Route 14. Thanks to Abubakar and Tony Campos and the rest of the team here at CVTV, Central Vermont Television at CVTV723.org. Our guest, Brandi Jagemann, and she'll definitely be back. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, most importantly, to Air It Out. I'm J.D. Green. We'll catch you next time. Thank you.